This is the Canadian, and 3 weeks ago I took an economy class trip from downtown Vancouver, 2 days away to Winnipeg, Manitoba, and today I'm heading back in the opposite direction but in sleeper class. This is a 60-hour journey across the prairies of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, Rocky Mountains of Alberta, and finally arriving on the west coast at Pacific Central Station in downtown Vancouver. Now this trip starts in the same city that I was born in, Winnipeg, Manitoba at Union Station, and I am doing this return trip with my amazing girlfriend Victoria. Now, I came home on the Canadian 3 weeks ago to get hip surgery in Winnipeg, and I was lucky enough where VIA upgraded my lower berth sleeper ticket to a private cabin for two.
I gotta give a big shout out to the team at VIA, handicap accessibility, first class, like the VIP red carpet here on the Canadian. So this is sleeper class.
Now we're staying in Brant Manor, which is one of the sleeping class cars that VIA offers in the Canadian. And again, I want to say thank you so much to VIA because this upgrade was free of charge to allow me to have more space for my hip post-recovery to make my journey as smooth as possible back to Vancouver after surgery. So to them, thank you so much. I mean, they even let me bring Victoria free of charge to help me get around the train. So to VIA, thank you so much for this.
Hey guys, welcome to the vlog. Jess here on the VIA Rail Tow car, ready to take my trip from Winnipeg to Vancouver, moving to Vancouver.
And at around 9:30 p.m., as it does every single Monday and Thursday night, the Canadian departed downtown Winnipeg out of Union Station. So it was about 30 minutes later, and we were outside of the city of Winnipeg and into the heart of the prairies, and I really don't think the video does it justice because I just find there's something so relaxing to me about watching the prairies go by for kilometers on end in the darkness of the night. This here is the dining car, and this is where all the meals on board the train in sleeper class take place, and the next morning we would head for our first meal, breakfast for 7 a.m. As we were finishing the last of our breakfast and coffees, we were just outside of Watura, Saskatchewan, and as the sunlight just started to break across the prairies, we were met with, in my opinion, the most visually stunning experience I've ever had on board the Canadian. There's truly nothing better than a prairie sunset. Also, I just want to say, views like these can't beat them. So, if you're taking the Canadian start to finish from Toronto to Vancouver, this will be the start of day 3 for you technically. But this right here is my favorite part of the journey. You know, Manitoba and Saskatchewan have the best sunrises on Earth, and I just find again something so calming, something so soothing about the prairie fields that span for miles and miles on end. As we headed further west, where we would arrive in Saskatoon around 10:30 in the morning.
It's so cold, I can't feel my lips. Oh my nose.
You don't have any lips.
Now, Saskatoon Station is, like a lot of the other stations, quite outside the city, so there really isn't a lot of action going on here. But this was a visually beautiful day. So we would end up departing Saskatoon Station, and about an hour later, it was time for lunch. Now, today we started with the minestrone soup, and for mains, I ended up getting the grilled shrimp and scallops, as well as the barbecued turkey wrap. And you're going to notice a theme here in this video. When you're in sleeper class, and if you want a second main or a second protein, it is no charge, and they will treat you literally like a king. And speaking of which, dessert today, hot apple crisp with cold vanilla ice cream. It doesn't get any better than this. Later that afternoon, we would stop in Wainwright, Alberta for a quick fresh air break. And after that, it was into the capital of Alberta, a few hours away in Edmonton. Now, we were running pretty on schedule at this point, and it was a Friday night. So VIA on Friday nights offers their flagship entree for dinner, prime rib. Look at that.
I won't judge if you just grab it with your hands and like bite into it.
Like a brontosaurus piece. And for dessert tonight, it was a strawberry shortcake and a chocolate torte to finish. Man, were they good. So we arrived in Edmonton around 9 p.m. Now, there isn't a lot to do at the Edmonton VIA station because it's so far outside the city, as you can see here. But it did mean there was an opportunity to get 3 hours of quality sleep because as comfortable as the VIA cabin beds are, you got to remember that this train was built in 1955. So it's almost 70 years old. So it's not exactly the smoothest ride when we're running about 130 kilometers an hour across Saskatchewan and Manitoba in the middle of the night. But about 300 kilometers away, when we do wake up, we're going to be just outside of my favorite part of this trip, Jasper, Alberta. So So this here is Jasper, Alberta. We arrived around 7:30 in the morning. I cannot stress how much this is my favorite part of the trip. It's the beginning of the real Alberta wilderness that runs into BC, and it's just like Banff. Jasper was founded in 1813. Now, Jasper is a tourist town that thrives off of the VRL Canadian line, and there are only about 4,000 people that live here, about half the population of Banff for reference, but it's home to some of the best skiing, snowboarding, and something that I got to experience a few years ago, skating outdoors in the mountains. Not to mention the countless wildlife that wander into town on a daily basis, the funky coffee joints, and more importantly, I'm just really happy and really excited to be sharing my favorite place in Canada with the woman I care about the most on this beautiful morning. So at around 9 a.m., we would head back and get ready for our departure out of Jasper. And if you look right here on your left, you'll see an elk just hanging out right beside the tracks as the train rolls by. Look at the elk, look on the road.
Elk? Oh, hello.
The natural beauty of the Rocky Mountains is truly on full display here as we get further and further out of Jasper. And it's also where I think personally the train really starts to show her true beauty. I mean, the Rocky Mountains are filled with turns and bends because it's the only way that they were able to carve a path to the west coast when they built the railway in the 1800s. And because of that, this is when the Canadian really starts to stretch her legs in a way that I can't describe as anything outside of beautiful and just stunning. The almost 70-year stainless steel exterior surrounded by snow-capped mountain peaks, evergreen trees for miles, it all plays the backdrop for this journey on board the Canadian. Both our westbound number 1 line and the eastbound number 2 line heading to Toronto, which we did end up passing, which was, I thought, really cool. The rest of this morning we would run parallel with Highway 16, but we would slowly end up splitting off and heading south around brunch time. Chef's omelet, pot pie. I love the train. So the train was only offering brunch and dinner service today on board. And Victoria got the raviolis, and I opted for the chicken pot pie and the chef's omelet. After brunch, the landscape really started to change again and started to resemble something a lot more desert-like as we would head south towards the Thompson River for our second last stop of the trip in Kamloops later tonight. Now, the Kamloops station is a lot like other VIA stations in the fact that it's outside the city and there's no real access to entertainment, food, grocery stores, or anything nearby. I mean, the Kamloops station is literally in the middle of an active rail yard, which I thought was pretty crazy.
It's a strong stream. Wait till you see the solids come out.
So for the Last Supper, I opted for the rack of lamb, done medium, but keep in mind I'm a pretty big boy and I'm also a professional athlete, so I got the lamb rack and I also got the Maple Dijon Chicken Supreme, which was incredible. This was easily by far the best dinner on board the train. And to top it off, Via's new flagship dessert, the carrot cake cheesecake. I got a black coffee to finish. You could not have scripted a better dinner to finish off this train trip. What do you think? And now, after dinner, I was treated to a nice surprise by the VIA staff.
Checking out the Prestige class.
Now, although this trip has been amazing in sleeper class, there is a higher class actually, and that's called Prestige. It's the most expensive ticket on the train, and it is $10,000 for a round trip from Toronto to Vancouver, and that gets you this queen-size bed, also a personal shower. What do you think?
Wow.
This room is unreal. You also get 24/7 access to pastries, muffins, bottomless alcohol, and my personal favorite, the all-you-can-drink cappuccino bar. You also get front row seats in the park car, which are at the back of the train, which is also the only dome car on the train where they will turn the lights off, so you don't get any glare when you're looking out at night. They also get access to these park car bullet lounge, which isn't exclusive because Sleeper Plus does get access to it as well, but it's just cool to be able to experience what $10,000 can get you if you had the money. And this could not be any different from the experience that I had my last trip in economy, where you get no shower access for 3 days, meals that probably resemble more prison food than chef-inspired meals, And I mean, there's a reason they put the third class economy passengers at the front of the train and the Presitge at the very back. Because if there's ever an accident, the third class are going to get the significantly worse of that than if you're in Presitge class, but that's just my theory behind it. Fast forward to around 5 a.m. and we would be heading into the final leg of this cross-Canada adventure as we head into the lower mainland, across the Fraser Valley Bridge, and into downtown Vancouver for our final arrival at Pacific Central Station around 6 a.m. So Victoria and I would have our final breakfast shortly after arriving this morning, and when we exited the train, it was a stunning morning. 8 degrees Celsius upon arrival in the middle of January at the Centennial Pacific Central Station as the downtown Vancouver skyline plays the backdrop for our final moments of this great Canadian journey.
So long, sucker.
So that's it. From Union Station in the city that I was born in, Winnipeg, Manitoba, over 60 hours west and 3,000 kilometers later into downtown Vancouver, Pacific Central. Although I do love taking the Via Rail for fun, I was using this trip to move from Winnipeg to Vancouver, where I'm going to be staying and living until September when I have to report for next year for the upcoming pro hockey season. And speaking of which, despite that I had hip surgery less than 2 weeks ago from taking this trip, I want to say the Via Rail team was beyond accommodating for helping me get around the train, getting on and off, the constant supplies of ice that I needed throughout the trip, and the culinary requests made in the dining car. Everybody was top-notch and at their best on this entire trip, and I cannot say thank you enough to Via Rail, and I cannot wait to take the Canadian again on my next journey, wherever it may be. I'm curious, have you ever taken the Canadian? Do you want to? Is it on your bucket list? Do you love the food? What do you think of the train schedule? Whatever it is, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I would love to hear from you. My name is Travis Ridgen. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more travel vlogs just like this, or if you want to see more about my life playing professional hockey. I want to say thank you so much for watching.
This is my beautiful girlfriend and I. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.